Hello, welcome back to another episode of From Prison to the Streets. I'm Eric. I did 11 years in prison and I talk about prison stuff. Today I'm going to be doing a Q&A. Now, I wanted to do this live, but due to some problems I've been having with my internet, thanks to high winds, I'm just going to forego that and make a video. I didn't want to get cut off or anything like that in the middle of a video, so that's what I'm doing. But before we get into that, let me say that I am very grateful for all of you who recently subscribed and all of you who have been watching my videos. I really appreciate it. My last video about meeting the BTK killer, Dennis Rader, was pretty popular and some people loved it, some people hated it, but I really appreciate your feedback either way. And I'm going to be doing a part 2 of that video pretty soon. My brother just got out of prison and he is actually from the Wichita area and grew up in the paranoia of BTK, and he was in county jail at the same time BTK was there, and he was a pod worker, so he was out moving around at the same time BTK was in the pod, and he had a little bit more interaction with him than I did, and he can tell you a lot more about him. So be sure to catch that when it comes out. And with that, we're going to get into the video, so be sure to like and subscribe, and here we go. All right. Now, I apologize in advance if I butcher names. I'm not good with names of foreign pronunciation, so I apologize in advance. But to get started, Dixia Servi asked, what do you mean by the dog cage I referred to? In the video about BTK, I talked about how when you're in Supermax or in segregation, you're locked in your cell for 23 hours a day, and you get an hour out to go to a dog cage, a little recreation yard. And basically it's a chain link fence. It's very small. It's slightly larger than a cell and a lot smaller than a regular yard. And it's closed in. It has a locked door. You go in there in handcuffs. They take your handcuffs off through a little hole in the fence. And you can't have contact with other inmates while you're out there. You're separated by chain link fences. So you basically have this little cage to yourself, and it resembles a dog cage that you would see at a pound or something like that. So that's what I mean by dog cage. And that's basically the only time you're out of your cell if you're in Supermax or segregation. Thank you for the question. Satan Dark Destroyer asks, what was the music in the intro? Well, thank you for the question. The music in the intro is one of my own songs. It's an original song by Eric E. Swanson called Unchained. I put that out, I think, a couple years ago now on pretty poor quality equipment. It wasn't great stuff. I had a laptop that was probably about 5 years old, and I was using Audacity and a cheap amplifier to put some stuff together. I just like to make music, so whatever I have to make music, that's what I'm going to use. I hope you like the music, and that music is up on YouTube. If you want to go check it out, I'll put a link to it in the description and you guys can go check that out. But yeah, thank you for the question. That actually brings me to the next question. Infinite Canadian asks, do I do metal vocals for a living? No. I wish I did, but I do not. I was working as a framing carpenter for about a year. And I was working for a guy who built custom homes and buildings. So these really nice houses, some of them are pretty big, some of them not so big, but they're still, you know, they're all custom. So really nice stuff. And I really enjoyed doing that work. However, I injured myself on the job one day and I hurt my ankle pretty bad. And ever since then, I haven't been able to stand on my 2 feet for more than a couple hours at a time. So I decided, since I couldn't do that work anymore, I was going to start my own band and try to pursue that full time. However, it does not earn me a living. I started a music production company and my own band, and I bought a bunch of equipment for it, and it kind of flopped. A lot of that is my fault because I haven't been pursuing that. I felt a little bit more passionate about this channel, because I felt like it was helping people with my story and stuff like that. And I still feel very positively about this channel, and I really enjoy doing it. I figured since I couldn't really go to work at a job where I'm on my feet, then I might as well pursue my dreams, right? So that's what I did, and that's what I'm doing. And it's not earning me a living right now, but it's something that I really enjoy doing. So I'm cool with that. But if I could make a living doing metal vocals or playing guitar, I would in a heartbeat. But you know what? As long as I'm doing something I'm passionate about, I really don't care how much money I make. But thank you for the question. Deke Diegler asked me if that is a Klan uniform hanging up behind me. And no, it is not a Klan uniform. That is an ATA Taekwondo Black Belt Club gi. And I did Taekwondo for a little bit. I've been doing jiu-jitsu since I was about 10 years old, and boxing since about the same time. I really like martial arts. I like fighting. It's a good way to challenge yourself and teach yourself mental discipline and physical discipline. And I really enjoy the camaraderie that comes with it. But yeah, that's what that is hanging up behind me. Beyond Belief asks, did you ever ask Mikey, referring to Mikey Souls or Michael Souls, the Wichita sniper or the Holiday Inn sniper, why he did what he did and if he was really sorry for it? No, I didn't. And there's a reason for that. Mikey sticks to himself. He doesn't talk to a lot of people, and I liked Mikey, but I didn't know why he was in there initially. I didn't know what he did. You know, the Holiday Inn shooting took place back in the 70s, way before my time. I wasn't even aware of it. And, you know, I was kind of on good terms with him when I found out what he did, and I felt it would be kind of awkward to bring that up in conversation. But once again, my brother, who just got out of prison, was much better friends with Mikey than I was. And Mikey actually talked to him about it. So he will be on the channel in the near future, and he will tell you guys about that. We'll do a part 2 on the Wichita Sniper episode as well, and we'll get you that information. So stay tuned for that. But thank you for the question. XXXS asks, do prisoners have internet access? Not really. We had access to email. There's a company called JPay, and there's a few other companies that will allow inmates to send emails. However, it's emails on their server. It's not even what I would consider a traditional email. It's not like an Outlook account or a Gmail account or something like that. And you have to pay 35 cents or somewhere around there for an email. And, you know, so each message that you send is 35 cents with an additional 35 cents if you want to send a e-card or a picture or something like that. So it's a little bit expensive, but it's faster and more convenient than snail mail. However, beyond that, there's not really internet access in the facility. You have access to what's called the LexisNexis, which is a legal library, basically an online legal library. They have a lot of case law and stuff like that. So that's online. That's a part of the internet, of course. But you can't just surf the web anywhere you want. You can't look up different sites or anything like that. It's very closed off as far as permissions go. The Darkness Underneath podcast asks if I have ever tried ketamine or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for depression. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, yes. Ketamine, no. I think Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, though, is great for depression. I think getting out and doing things, being involved with stuff is great for depression, because depression makes you want to stay in your own little bubble and forget about everybody else. But sometimes that makes it worse. So if you can get out and do some sort of physical activity that involves other people, that can help a lot. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for me is great for my depression. I love it. Unfortunately, where I live now, there's not a lot of dojos around, and I have a tendency to wear out training partners, so they give up. But hopefully I'll find another training partner, sparring partner here soon. Maybe. We'll see. But yeah. Thank you for the question. All right. Dimitri from Macedonia was asking me about what happens to a European guy who accidentally ends up in prison for something like maybe a small, let's see, for a small crime, something like dope or something like that. Does he have to join a certain white gang like the Aryan Brotherhood in order not just to survive, but to spend his time well enough? Well, to answer that, you don't really have to join a gang to survive. Sometimes that's a little bit tougher. It depends on the facility and your security level. But if you go to prison for a small crime, chances are you're going to go to either a medium facility or a minimum facility. And the gang politics aren't the same there. And you don't really have to worry about gangs. So if you're not going in for a big crime, not a big deal. Some of the maximum security prisons, they're all about gangs and affiliations. And it's really hard to survive without being in a gang. People may try to force you to be in a gang, but that doesn't mean you have to be in one. If you're assertive and you hold your own, people will respect that and they'll leave you alone. Thank you for the question. Okay, next question. Pogs Slammer says, I thought pedos get killed in prison. He gets a pass or what? In reference to BTK. Well, he doesn't really get a pass. He's in Supermax. You can't really get to him. When I saw BTK, I was working in the infirmary, and he was always escorted by several black suits. There's a special security team. And when I saw him when I was on the maintenance crew, and we would go down to Supermax, they would take him out of the cell and they would put him in the shower when we were working on the cell. They didn't let us anywhere near him while they were moving him from his cell to the shower. Now, you could still holler back and forth and stuff like that, but you couldn't really, you didn't have physical access to the guy. He doesn't really get a pass. He's in Supermax. And another thing, nowadays, and a lot of times in Kansas prisons, some states are harder than other states, but at least in Kansas prisons, if you seriously hurt someone because they have a sex crime, or they're a pedophile or something like that, you could be looking at additional charges. You might be looking at a hate crime. And if you kill them, they frown on that. I did 11 years with no prior criminal history at the age of 17 because I kidnapped and shot an alleged pedophile. So yeah, they kind of frown on that. And in prison, it's the same way. If you take someone and hit them over the head with a lock, you're looking at attempted murder, which in Kansas could get you a hard 40 pretty easily. It's a severity level 1. And they do charge people with hate crimes, and yeah, So yeah, there's that. Now, that doesn't mean that all pedos get a pass. A lot of them still get messed up. Like, there's guys in prison who have sex cases that are, less severe, I should say. Like if a dude's 16 and his girlfriend's 15 or 14 or something like that, and they had a consensual relationship together, it's technically statutory rape, and the dude could go to prison for it. But people in prison aren't going to look at that as a serious sex case worthy of a dude getting beat up. However, there have been guys, and I've seen it happen, guys who came in and they had a crime against like a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old or a 6-year-old, and they immediately got smashed, or someone immediately came in and they extorted them. That's actually more common, at least in Kansas prisons, than violence against someone with a sex case, is extortion. You know, if a guy has a bad case, he's going to be paying somebody rent to live in that pod without getting his head smashed, or on that compound without getting his head smashed. And really, it's all a facade, because whoever he's paying isn't actually going to protect him. They just say they are. And then when, you know, said dude with a sex case pisses off the wrong person, he gets smashed anyway. So, yeah. Something similar happened to one of my bunkies. He didn't have a sex case, but he was an ex-cop, and he was paying an asatru to protect him, actually the head of the asatrus. And one day he kind of pissed me off, and I beat the hell out of him. And asatru dude didn't protect him. So, yeah. Okay, next question. NHF111 asks, reverse headstock Jackson I see there? Yes, it is. This is my Jackson Dinky Rev. Probably one of my favorite guitars. That is probably one of my favorite guitars. I love Jackson guitars, and I actually got that guitar for a guitar giveaway I was doing on my other channel. When I reached so many subscribers, I was going to give away that guitar. However, we didn't reach as many subscribers as we wanted to, so right now I'm stuck with the guitar and I'm not sure what to do with it, so I've just been playing it while I'm working on my new album. But yeah, thank you for the question. Robert Walker asks, do you get to choose a roommate in prison? Yes and no. It kind of depends on if your behavior is good and what prison you're in. Some prisons are very by the book when it comes to the rules, particularly minimum prisons, and you don't have anything coming. Technically, you don't get to choose your roommate, but a lot of unit teams bend the rules. So a unit team manager or a unit team counselor is somebody who is supposed to help you complete programs and stuff while you're in prison. And they're usually in charge of whatever unit you're living in. So usually if you want to get moved within your unit to a certain cell or live with a certain person, you would go talk to your unit team counselor or your unit team manager. And if you've been out of trouble and not causing any problems, a lot of times you can pick your roommate. My brother Kevin, who just got out, was my cellie for 5 years. And it was because the unit team allowed it. I had kind of beat up my last cellmate, and I was having a hard time getting along with people. I'm not an easy person to get along with. I'm really quiet, but I also have a really bad temper. And when you're locked in a cell with somebody, you know, a 12x8 or 12x9 cell with somebody at, you know, all hours of the day, they get on your nerves and tempers get heated. So I wanted to live with someone who I knew I got along with. So I got moved in with my brother Kevin. He's not my real brother, but he's more of a real brother than someone could ask for real. And so we lived together up until he got transferred out. And that worked out really well. Sometimes people can get with a good cellie and they'll live together for years, even though they're not supposed to. But thank you for the question. Okay, let me find another question. Cameron asks me if I have ever heard of a Millwall brick made famous by the Millwall football hooligans. Yes, I have. I actually didn't hear about it until after I got out, but I had made something very similar while I was in prison, and I had seen other people make similar weapons when I was, you know, in prison. A Millwall brick is basically some rolled up paper that is so tightly packed together that if you smack someone with it, it'll, you know, do some damage. And guys in prison, they'll take what they call paper logs, and they'll make weapons out of them sometime. If you take some water and paper, you can roll that paper up tight enough to where it's just like a wooden handle or a bat. And when I was in prison, I took some magazines and I rolled them up real tight like that, and I ripped the shelf out of my locker one time. I was getting into it with some people, and I ripped the shelf out of my locker, nice sizable piece of metal, and I bent it to shape on my floor. I used my boot for a hammer, and I attached it to this handle I made with boot laces, and then I sharpened it up on the floor, and I actually had a little hatchet. So it wasn't just tightly wrapped paper like a Millwall brick. It was like a little hatchet or a tomahawk, and it got me a year in the hole. So that was fun. But yeah, thank you for the question. Cameron also asked another question. He said that I seem like a fairly normal and nice dude. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. My question is this: do you think you've been rehabilitated, or were you always a normal, nice dude? Well, I wasn't always a normal, nice dude who just happened to off a nonce. No, absolutely not. When I was a teenager, when I caught my case, I was a rambunctious, oh man, I was trouble, for real. I had a really rough childhood. My parents, I love them to death, but they were not normal, and they did not raise me like a lot of other kids were raised. My dad was a former career criminal. He did time in California. He had ties to people that I'm not going to talk about, because you don't talk about serious shit like that, and I'm not going to. And yeah, I was very rough around the edges even as a kid. I had a really bad temper. I would fight at the drop of a hat. I usually had some sort of weapon like a firearm, and you know, I mean, to summarize it, I was hot-headed. I was a knucklehead. And I think prison calmed me down a lot. You know, if you go to a place where you're a kid and they're with a bunch of grown men who have been doing a lot of time, you get humble real fast. You know, you can't fight everybody. You can try to, but you ain't gonna fight and win. Not against everybody. I got my ass whooped a few times, and it brought me down a few pegs. Actually, I have a video about how I got knocked out in the county jail. I got in a fight with some dude who was way bigger than me, who had done time for a long time, and he knocked me out. And that was the beginning of my discovery of humility. And I think we'll do one more question before I go. Brian Anderson asks, Eric, what amount of money are you making from these YouTube videos? And I already answered this, but I'm kind of going back and answering some of these just to answer them. Maybe they're a question that more than one person had. I'm not making money on these videos. I don't get ad revenue. I'm not a monetized channel, although, hey, I might be in the near future. I don't know. I don't really do this for money. I do this because it's a passion of mine. It's also the same reason why I don't have a set schedule and stuff on when I release these videos. Sometimes I don't upload things for a while, and that's kind of why. This isn't a job. This is something I'm passionate about. It's something that I like to do, but there's a lot of other ways that I make money in my life, and this really isn't one of them. If I could make money doing this, that would be cool. It would help pay for some of the equipment that I bought to support the channel. You know, I'm using my own money to buy cameras and microphones and stuff like that, so that would be cool, but that's not why I do it. So I'm not monetized. I don't make money, but I would be okay with it if I did. So yeah, and with that, I think I'm gonna end this video. I appreciate you guys watching. Let me just say right quick, the band during the intro, that was a very common question. That is me. I'll say it again, that the song's called Unchained by Eric E. Swanson. You can find it on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, all that good stuff. So if you want to check it out, feel free to. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Be sure to check out the videos that are coming up. BTK Part 2, Wichita Sniper Part 2, and we will do that. And I look forward to seeing y'all. I will see y'all later.
Break these chains.